to Ghosts in the Valley podcast. I'm your host, Al Cooley. I'm kicking off my 4th season with William Tabone. William is the co-founder with his wife Amanda of the Australian Paranormal Society. Bill is also the founder of Worlds Beyond TV, which you can find on YouTube. And William also has a new book out, Ghosts of Aradale, Asylum, which you can pick up on Amazon. And I will be right back with my conversation with William Tabone right after these brief messages.
Do exorcisms intrigue you? Do you like scary urban legends? Are you fascinated with history and ghostly lore of haunted places? Well, if you answered yes to any of these, please check out Hauntingly Yours, a podcast for the paranormal. I'm your host, DC O'Rourke. I invite you to get together with me and the rest of our para family each and every week to hear haunting tales from across the globe. The show is available on all podcast players. Please do not forget to review and subscribe.
Okay, today I have William Tabone, and he is the author of Ghost of Aradale Asylum, True Experiences from Australia's Most Haunted Location. Also, Bill and his wife Amanda are the co-founders of the Australian Paranormal Society, and Bill is also one of the 4 founders of Worlds Beyond TV on YouTube. Let's start with just welcoming you to Ghost in the Valley podcast.
Thanks, Al. Thank you very much, mate.
And I know we're like 16 hours apart, and thank you for putting your time around my time, and we worked it out.
All good, mate. There's always a way. There's always a way.
Always a way, right? And before we get into your book and the society, let's start back to the beginning, back when you were a youngster, back when you said you started your paranormal investigations. What?
19, I did my first investigation.
19?
Yes. But I've been fascinated by, all the unusual things, as you might say, the paranormal and such, since before I can remember, since a little kid. Always had this fascination with anything, like anything to do with the paranormal. It's just I don't know where it came from, but it's sort of just been this this drive, this passion almost, to sort of just find out as much as I can. Yeah.
And when you said you were 19, what was your first investigation on?
I always say it was an attempted investigation.
Attempted?
Back then we didn't have a lot of gear. It wasn't like that now. I think I had an old standard video camera, and I think we had just a 35mm film camera or something similar. Even before that, the cartridges I think that went in there, that sort of thing. And we went to an old cemetery and fumbled around trying to see if we could see anything, have experiences. No, we were. It was really just let's go and have a try. And I say that's my first investigation, and it was, or attempted investigation. But it's the one that started it all, really.
And then before we dive into your book, and you say you started back when you're 19, investigations, and some 36 some years ago, and now that you got your feet wet, my next question was, how has the equipment changed since then to now?
Back then, we had no idea. We were learning from any books we could get our hands on, any articles people wrote, documentaries that were up, anything. For example, if you remember a TV show called Kolchak.
Oh yeah.
The Night Stalker.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a recorder he used to carry around with him. That's the sort of stuff we were using, because we didn't have any of the new stuff, and we weren't really sure what we were doing. So back then it was, and then when it got a little bit more serious, we were using like way back techniques from way back in 100 years before, putting bells on door handles, the old talcum powder on the ground or flour or whatever you could get your hands on, things like that, just to see if there was any interference or movement. It was tripwires and things like that. It was old school. And nowadays they've got everything. You've got electronic tripwires, you've got electronics and everything that happens. So there's a lot of equipment out there, a lot of good equipment, but there's I always say to people with equipment, buy what you'll use. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, they can get excited about a piece of equipment and then it sits on a shelf because one, they may not know how to use it properly, or two, it doesn't do what they expect. But be very careful. I would say be very careful what you spend your money on because you can channel that somewhere else. But yeah, completely different from when I started.
Yeah, same as myself. Like back when I was getting into it, and
Yeah.
like yourself, I had like a video camera and I used infrared. I was excited about the infrared. I could pick up a lot of stuff on infrared. But
yes, for sure.
But you probably can relate to this that a lot of times you go into an investigation and it's like fishing. Sometimes you come back with a good catch and sometimes you come back with nothing. You spent the whole time there and nothing happened.
Exactly. I always use the analogy of a gold prospector. They'll dig for months and they'll find one little nugget now and then, and that's that's your little bit of evidence it works. That's good. And it is like that. It is prospecting or exploring what we can find. But I'll tell you with the equipment now. Even myself now when I go out, just myself or maybe with Amanda, I only take a camera and a voice recorder now. Because I don't feel I need all the other gear when it's just us. When we have a full team investigation or a big location, we'll break everything out. Or when there's a public event, we'll break everything out. But for me, it's back to basics, real basics for now. Yeah.
And you said you got back when you started when you was 19, but what led you to that to begin with? I mean, did you have any ghost or spirit experiences before that led you to get into that, or was it just by chance?
I had, as I said, I had this drive, I can't even remember, where I come from. I don't even know where I come from. It started. For me, it feels like it's always been there. I think in this field, sometimes you're pushed towards this field, not trying to sound all mystic and that, but I think some people are meant to do certain things and sometimes you have this drive in you, this itch inside you, scratching, that pushes you towards something. But I did have a couple of experiences, nothing super exciting, but one of the ones was actually a dream. My grandfather, my father's father, lived with us and he passed away. And I had a dream where he was sitting in a chair and he had my dad and my uncle on either side of him. I walked in, I told him I loved him, I gave him a kiss. And it wasn't nothing out of the ordinary, nothing super exciting. But the funny thing is, when I got up the next morning, I was only probably 9 or 10. My older sister, who's 7 years older than me, she had the same dream that night, but with her. And then my father had the same dream that night as well. So to me, that was, even back then, it was like, wow, we all had exactly the same dream, So it's something, I always say one of my first experiences was I actually debunked it as a child without even knowing what debunking is. We had, Mum had a shirt of mine hanging on a cupboard door. On a clothes hanger, and I'm in bed and the lights were still on. I remember it was a Friday night, and all of a sudden one of the arms starts sort of flapping up and down. And I'm as a kid, I'm sort of, a little bit scared, a little bit freaking out, and I went to sleep. I woke up the next morning, and I can't remember whether it was a newspaper I saw or a radio or television news or whatever, that we had an earth tremor the night before. And my mind, two and two together. That's what made the shirt move. So that's my sort of, joke story because it's real, but it's sort of debunked it. I realized what had happened, and I always say I was debunking from the beginning. So yeah.
Well, sometimes you go to a place and that's claimed to be haunted.
Yes,
but you find out that there's other activity. You have to like you say, have to debunk. First of all, that it is paranormal.
Yeah.
Because it could be pipes rattling or
could be anything.
Anything, right? And I do like that, And when you go to these places like residential or business, do you do like any historical research on that before you go in?
Yeah, I tend to, if we're doing for example, more on the historic side of things, I suppose, I tend to do quite a bit of research anyway. And then it depends on who I'm working with. For example, for mediums, I try to tell them nothing, and if I can pick them up, my wife's a medium and she doesn't, if I'm organizing an investigation, she doesn't come out a lot now because of illness, but I tend not to tell her a lot. I say we've got activity, and she'll do her thing, and or whoever, whichever medium we're working with. Some of the people on my team, I will tell them, but depending on what I want, depending on what it's sort of a judgment call, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
It varies. So if I can keep it to myself, I will. But there are some cases when I need to let people know certain things that are going on that we need to keep an eye out for. But yeah, look, it's always research. But that's just depending on who gets told. It's sort of investigation to investigation. But as you said before, the debunking, I always believe, try to find rational explanations before you call something paranormal. So, and that's one of the, I suppose, rules we follow. Yeah.
And I've seen in your studies in the paranormal field that it included the parapsychology and demonology.
Yes.
How has that helped you in your in your investigations or research?
For sure. For me, there's the old saying, knowledge is power. But one of my teachers took it a step further. It said, knowledge is power when it's applied.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So what I believe is, if you have the knowledge of anything, you're able to put that into play when you need it, and it gives you more tools and more skills to work with. It's like, if you get a piece of equipment, your camera, yeah, sure, a camera can take a photo,
mm-hmm.
but you've got all these other things that it can do. It gives you wider options when faced with things. So for me, all these different studies are to build a knowledge base that I can draw on when I need. Yeah, and it's not just that. There's just a couple. We're always studying, reading, or researching something. So right through to hypnotherapy, how hypnotherapy can work with the paranormal, and that sort of thing. So
really, that's parapsychology. You use a lot of that in hypnosis. Because I was just reading a book on a professor out of New York that uses parapsychology in his for his class, and he's a professor, and he is the most popular. it's the most hard. It's the hardest class to get into.
Yes, I can imagine.
Everybody's so interested in that now.
It's huge. Yeah.
And you think that maybe social media has really helped the paranormal field?
It has. I think in opening it up to people can talk a lot more. You obviously, you've been in the field. Everyone that's been in the field for a while knows there's always someone who's going to be a bit nasty, can something. It'll happen. It happens in every field. So the balance with the social media is, yes, it's opened up for us to be able to talk to other investigators worldwide. And I'm lucky. I've got people all over the world that are friends of mine, they're in this field that I can draw on and, ask for help or, send help, but, it does unfortunately open up the other door where you've got the negative people that want to can your work and that. And, I always say, don't even argue, just put them away, block and delete them and continue with what you're doing, because your success is always, or your growth is always better than anything else.
Yeah. I've seen that on a couple of investigations, when you have more than one, say, paranormal team investigating something, Asylum, so to speak. And I've seen this firsthand, whereas you've got people there joking around, like it's a joke, and they're kind of ruining it for the other people that's there.
Exactly.
And not take it really serious. And what I found is a spirit will contact who they want to contact.
Oh, for sure. And
like you said before, it's your equipment too. And on past guests had brought this up to me, that maybe if you're contacting somebody from the 1700s, they don't know what the hell that video camera is or that EVP is. So
exactly.
If you dress in the attire of that time or use trigger items of that time,
for sure,
you can draw them out better.
Oh, for sure. And you know what, we do that, like in the asylum that's in the book, the Aradale Asylum. I mean, we've just people up as patients, as nurses, as doctors, and we've had nurses and doctors on tours and on our investigations, and there is that connection. I had one nurse actually. She connected with a matron that's there and that we know of, and she just and she wasn't saying she was psychic or anything, but she connected and she broke down. Like she felt all this emotion. So it does help to have that connection, whether it be dress or whatever. But with the spirits, as you were saying, like someone from the 17th century is not going to know may not know what a camera is.
Mm-hmm.
But you also got to think that they've been around a long time, so they might have seen these previously.
Mm-hmm.
But what we do is, like, for example, if we grab a piece of equipment and we say, we've got this piece of equipment here, and if you come up and you talk to it, it will we'll be able to hear your voice. So we usually give a little bit of it. If it's something like that, an older place, we'll give some sort of explanation as well, to talk to whatever spirit might be around. So it's just, for me, everything that we do is trying to make that commitment to connect with spirit. And I also say to people, you could have the cheapest, like I've got a really cheap recorder here, for example, right? Real basic one, right? But you could have that, or you could have a $2,000, Zoom or whatever recorder. And if the spirit doesn't want to talk to you, they're not going to talk to you. But if they do, it doesn't matter what you're holding, they will contact you.
Yeah, I was at a place one time where they had the all that equipment, the grids on the wall, and the I mean, probably, like you said, maybe $4,000 or $5,000 in equipment just in one team alone, and we were there for maybe 6 hours, and not one
thing
happened. But it was after the fact, after you shut everything off.
Of course.
Then you're pushed from behind, or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
I always found that to be, to me, more. I don't know how to put it. I don't have the proof to show you, but I know, and people want proof. But and even if you give them the proof, there's still skeptics.
Exactly.
So it's, to me, it's all the personal things that's happened to me over the years.
The experience
and what's happened outside of the all that equipment.
Yep. No, and I agree with you 100%. And that's what I try to get through to people as well. And even when I'm doing a public tour, and you'll have people that are investigators, and I'll come with all this gear, and sometimes I will make them put that gear away and just stop and listen and stop and watch.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing. Their faces are stuck on, looking at reading an Ovilus, or looking at a meter, reading EMF or whatever. Actually, in the book, there's actually a story about that, where I had I can't remember how many, about 4 or 5 investigators plus a couple of my own guys, and we were in one of the wards, and I said, right, and they all had their faces in the gadgets, and I said, put them away. And I had my back to these big windows, and I'm watching these guys. I'm just saying, just going to listen and just going to watch what goes on. And I see, because there's enough light, there was enough moonlight to actually see. Their faces are all changed. I've gone, what happened? And they all, the ones that were facing me, there was about 4 or 5 of these investigators plus a couple of my guys. They saw a figure behind me walk across the windows, just in a hospital gown. Right now, they wouldn't have seen that if they had their faces down their gear. But it was just timing.
Before I get like 100 emails from some of my paranormal investigators, but I'm not dogging the equipment. I'm not putting it down. No. I'm just saying that sometimes you can
saturate. You can saturate
your investigations with too much.
Yep.
And sometimes less is more. I think you're a guest on a show.
Yep.
And you had brought up, the paranormal is a wide field. And
it is.
I like what you said, that you're interested in other things than ghosts and spirits, as like UFOs and what's out beyond our universe. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. I just have it, to me. I mean, ghosts, spirits, hauntings. That's sort of my main focus. That's what's probably my true love. But I'm open to everything. I have people that are ufologists. I have cryptozoologists that are friends. And to me, it's interesting because there are correlations, and there's, sometimes when there's UFO sightings, you'll find that in that area there might be extra paranormal activity, what we would call hauntings,
mm-hmm.
That sort of thing. So to me, they tie together. And what we do, I always say, we're more like all of us are more like paranormal explorers rather than paranormal, experts or researchers. We're explorers. We're out there. We are trying to find better ways, or trying to, get through to a place where we can actually communicate with spirit or with whatever better. And that's how I look at it. Yeah.
Now, do you go to residential and business?
Yes. Yeah.
And I see that you've been all around the world. I mean, so
I've been lucky. I've been very lucky.
So I seen you've been to the States. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm looking at these spots, man. It's like, man, he's been more places than I've been, and I live here.
I love the States. I come home from my first visit to the States, and I said to Amanda, I said, hey, you want to move? And
the name of my podcast is Ghost in the Valley. Then when I started out, it was Valley was my valley, Ohio, Pennsylvania Valley. Okay. But I found out after doing this is my fourth year going into podcasting, that the Valley, and I actually did a documentary back in the late 90s that was called Ghost in the Valley. So the Valley was, like I said, my area. But after doing this podcast, the Valley is everywhere. I mean, because talking to people like from United States or England or in your case, Australia. I mean, it's everywhere. So I know the spirits don't limit themselves to one spot.
Of course not. No, they can, they're everywhere.
I've been to Gettysburg. I've seen you been to Gettysburg. Have you, did you get a lot of activity there?
Yeah. We had a lot, we had, do you know the Kling brothers? Brett and Barry Kling they used to have a show called Ghost Lab. It's Everyday Paranormal now.
Ghostland?
Yeah, they come out. They come out to Australia, and we had a bit of a tour for them. We showed them around. We looked after them while they were in Melbourne, and Brad had organised a Gettysburg event, and Gettysburg was top of my bucket list always. And I said that to him, and he invited me. So I invited Amanda and myself, but Amanda, she couldn't come along. We had young children and that, so she said, "You go." And I said, "Okay." So we went there, and we had an absolute blast, and we captured a lot of things. And then a year or so later, he was having another one, and I invited myself. So come back again. But I brought my son with me that time, and we had a lot of activity. We had some of the first night I was there, sleeping up in one of the rooms. I mean, we were the only ones in the place, and I had heavy boots walk past me, walk in the room, walk past me from where I was sleeping and going to the other room. I had voices. We had this is like 3 a.m, and we had I could hear the drums, the battle drums, playing. Oh, it was fantastic. That was just some of it. I saw it was stayed in the Fairfield Inn at that point. I saw a full body apparition of a woman. We had the funniest one. We were doing an investigation at Jenny Wade House, and we're down in the basement, and Brad pulls out an Ovilus. He says, "I want to try this out." Okay. And so it's playing. All of a sudden, the basement fills up with this smell of baking bread. Like she was baking bread when she died. So that was interesting. And then all of a sudden it starts saying I think it said her age. It said shot. It said killed. And we think, oh, that's interesting. And then now, an Ovilus has a set dictionary. Well, at that point, it actually says Jenny Wade.
Oh, yeah.
It said her name, and I got it on a recorder, and I've gone, and he goes, "Did anyone have a recorder running?" I always have a recorder running, so it was. I got it, and it's fantastic. Some great experiences. Some really great experiences. Yeah.
So, where would you say of all the places you've been, what's one of your favorites that you have investigated? Do you have? I mean, because you said you've been over thousands of investigations. So, I mean. That might be a hard question to answer, but
look, in the States, I would say I love Gettysburg. I love Gettysburg. Also loved. I stayed at San Antonio in Texas, and at the Mango Hotel there, and had a few things happen there, which was great. I was with my son, and we were actually late at night outside the Alamo. We went over there with a voice recorder and take some photos.
That's on my list. The Alamo.
Yeah, I love that place too, and and we actually heard it sounded like a lot of footsteps inside, a lot of people moving around, and a couple of things that sounded like gunshots. Yeah, but obviously they're in the distance, so I don't know whether it was from there or whether it was from someone shooting. Actually, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but it's coincidental. It was interesting. In the UK, I found there's a place called Whittington Castle.
Oh yeah.
Which I did an investigation there. A friend of mine organised an investigation event for us. We had some really interesting things there. We were downstairs, and above us there were some rooms, and there was a table that was moving around up there. We ran up there, and there was no one up there, and the door was locked. That was interesting. In Melbourne, where I live, well, obviously Aradale, because it's a great place, and I've had so many experiences there. So there's quite a few that I say that I really love.
Why do you think that Australia is so active? I mean, I just read that just recently.
My theory is that we are quite a young country, and we've had so much within like 200 years or 200 and so years. It's so much has happened in that short period of time. As emotion wise, energy wise, there's so much sort of cramp. It's like a lot of countries like England's thousands of years to develop, or hundreds of years to develop, whereas Australia within 200 years everything was crammed in to get to where we are now. So to me it's like it's sort of a pressure cooker. Like you put coal under pressure, it creates a diamond, so it becomes something else. And that this energy is what I believe is because of that rush of activity between that 2 centuries. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Now getting to this question you probably hate hearing, because I heard your one of your responses before, and I thought I guess say the same thing, because you can have a bad spirit, a damn soul, and or as you had put in other people and myself included, have said, if you're an asshole in life, you're going to be an asshole in death. I mean, I truly believe that. I mean, you ever go to a funeral and the guy laying there, he's not, he wasn't a good,
he's a prick.
right. I mean, the dude was an asshole. So if you were to your whole life, you're going to die that way.
Yeah,
I'm not going to say he's going to go to hell, but I'm just saying, or wherever. Some people don't believe you even move on. My belief is, you go somewhere, and if you don't, you're like in limbo.
Of course,
some cases you can come back. You can contact that spirit. I mean, everybody has their different beliefs. And I don't dog out anybody's beliefs.
Oh, exactly.
But do you believe you can move a spirit on?
Yeah, I do. That's what one of the things we work with is when people are having issues, and if anyone that works with residential, you'll get a lot of emails. I've got a demon in my house, and it's not normally. It's not that. I mean, it's just that with human nature, we fear what we don't understand or what we don't know, and people get scared, and the worst. They jump to the worst conclusions. So yeah, we can. I believe we can move a spirit on, depending on whether they want to move on, for one. But I mean, there are ways to force a spirit out of a location if you need to, especially negative. But you're right. I mean, when someone passes away, their personality doesn't automatically change. They don't become an angel, grow wings, and get a halo and fly off. Their personality stays the same. And there are spirits that are, as you said, just assholes. But unfortunately, because people are scared, they have they turn to the worst case scenario. Yeah, I mean, I do believe there are demons, but I also believe that they're rare, very rare.
And that's what I was going to say. In my 40 years of me doing it, I've only come across it twice. Yeah, and because there can be an evil, there can be a bad spirit. I mean, it's ornery, just being ornery.
Yeah.
Have you ever been hurt, or anybody in your team been hurt?
Oh, I was actually writing, because I'm writing another book at the moment, and I was writing about I hear so much, ghosts can't hurt you. I laugh because I've been around, like yourself, been around a long time, and you see a lot of things. But yeah, I've been, like everyone else, probably scratched. I actually got bitten by a child ghost in Gettysburg in the orphanage. So I had this bite mark with teeth, just a child-sized mouth. I didn't feel it, but I found it afterwards. So they can definitely interact, and if they can move things, they can cause you damage.
I was just going to say that, because I just was in a cemetery here, and not far from me in Pennsylvania, and I did an episode on it. It was on the vampire crypt. And in that vampire, if you ever come to the States, you got to check out that cemetery, because
I'll have to go there. Yeah, definitely.
Because I got this feeling, man. I'm telling you, I was outside the crypt, and it's been. I won't go into that right now, but there's a part in the cemetery. It's called the Witch's Circle, and there's been people I've talked to from that area that have been bitten by a dog or a coyote that's not there, but. You go see it for 1 second, and it's gone, but you got bit. I didn't get bit, but I heard it growl. Well, my wife and I were there. I heard it growl. Whatever it was, and but I mean, because that's the number one question you probably get asked is about demonology or demons, and in my case, it doesn't happen as much as people. It's get scared.
Very rare. Very rare. But they can hurt you. I had I've seen. I laugh because this guy was a very nice man. I didn't find out till afterwards. We were doing a session with the spirit box, and we asked if there's anyone they don't like, and they actually said this guy's name. And I'm thinking, oh yeah, why? He was standing there with a camera. The next thing you know, I saw this. His legs get pulled out from under him, and basically flipped almost upside down and dropped pretty much on his head. This was in an old. It's a hotel which used to be an old jail. And a couple of days later, I found out that he was actually stealing ideas and stealing different things off us, along with a couple other people. And so, the spirit was looking out for us, I think. But they can affect you, and they can cause. I've seen people get really sick because of the energy. I've seen physical attacks. I've had things thrown at me. Biggest one is in the book as well. One of the biggest ones was an iron bar, about a 3 or 4 foot iron bar, come flying out of the darkness, spinning head over head. So I was thrown with force, and it went between the other guy I was with and crashed to the ground further on. So they can, if that had hit us, we would have been out.
Okay, now when you come to the States and other places abroad, have you is that with your team, or are you doing a solo, or are you going with somebody else?
When I've only been abroad by myself and with my one of my sons. Sort of with work and with everything else for people, it's very hard to get the team all together to travel OS. But I always tell them go and find these places, go and explore. There's so much there.
You said you have 5 children. I mean. You didn't say, but I read this. You have 5 children. And you mentioned your son. Yes. And I seen on one of your Facebook videos, your son graduated, I think it was middle school. I thought it was pretty cool.
That was my youngest.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
That was my next question, that you just mentioned your son went with you. You think they're going to be involved in the paranormal, or are they already?
Yeah, most of my kids are involved. The one you saw there, he loves it, and he will be involved. The others have been involved. Some have not as active now because they have other things that they do. But the one that went with me, he's 19 now. He was 13 back then. And he used to go around with me pretty much everywhere. I tend to start their proper training. They live the life. They've grown up with this. But I tend to start the proper training, go to locations when they're, like asylums and such, when they turn 13. And that gives them a solid base till the time they're old enough to drive themselves to places and things like that. So so, but they learn everything. They learn, even as a youngster, they learn to protect themselves spiritually. And they'll ask questions, they want to know. So they help me do analysis and things like that. So it's
that's good. You can pull them in there and get them involved a little bit with what you're doing.
For sure.
And teach them the right way,
Exactly.
Getting back to your paranormal team, how many's on your team?
We have 7. Yeah.
And you said your wife's on the team too?
Yeah, my wife and myself.
And you say she's a
medium.
a medium. So I find that to be crucial to a lot of teams when you can diversify your
Of course.
team, that one
Yep.
person can do this or one person's good at this. So it's got to help out that she is a medium and she maybe see it a different side that you see it.
Exactly. All my kids actually have that gift.
Oh, awesome.
Right. So I don't. So they obviously got it off mum. But yes, our team is balanced with your tech side, the guys that do the equipment and that sort of stuff, and mediums. And they work together. So what we try to do is, I know you've heard the term points of verification.
Mm-hmm.
So what we do is they'll, Mandy will say, this is what I feel, da 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 da. And if we're getting things on our meters at the same location, or if we're getting voice, EVPs, or we're getting photographs, we try to match as much as we can to what she's felt there, obviously. And then you have, so each one is a point, what we call a point, or a point of verification. So the more points you have, the stronger that location or that experience we class. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me. I mean,
yeah. So, what you want to do is, it's great. Yes, I've got this EVP, but what I find, and the guy says his name's John, but what I find, interesting is, this is just an example. Half an hour earlier, Mandy was there and she felt a spirit called John. Plus we have a light anomaly. Plus we have, when we're getting this EVP, we've got a EMF meter going crazy. They're all points, and so that's what I like to see.
You're in Melbourne, right?
Yes, correct.
So how far out do you go to travel to do an investigation? In your area.
In Australia, Aradale's about 3.5 hour drive from me. I've travelled up through other states and such to investigate. Normally, if it's just a standard investigation, we'll do, depending on where we need to go, 3, 4, or 5 hours we've driven. So if not a bit more. The thing is, we have a pretty good network of people in the field. So if it's a bit far, initially I try to talk to the people and see if we can help them just in a sort of a counselling fashion.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time we can, and I can tell them things to do to, cleanse the house or to, balance whatever, because we find, everyone, a lot of the cases, it's not anything negative. It's just that they don't understand it, or that there's something more natural occurring. So I can usually talk them through it. On the other hand, if we do need someone to go out there and I can't get there, there's teams spread out, so I can always organize someone to get there at some stage. So that's what I like,
Wherever you get a call or somebody needs something investigated.
Yes.
That could be residential or like you say, you go to an asylum.
Yes.
There's a lot of activity in an asylum.
Absolutely.
Or a cemetery. I found that a lot of people don't even like going into cemeteries because there's so much activity. Yeah. Worlds Beyond TV on YouTube. What is that? What's that show about?
Okay, Worlds Beyond. What we did, what it is we started Worlds Beyond with one of the guys, Amanda, myself, a gentleman called Ragnar, and his sister Sarah. Sarah is she runs a blog and writes as a living life in full spectrum. That's her paranormal thing. Ragnar is actually one of my team. Ragnar and Sarah also do a public investigation of a place called Black Rock House, which is like an old manor house down near the beach, which is great. The four of us started Worlds Beyond, and what it is, we didn't want to do the old, night vision camera walking around doing the investigation. Mm-hmm. It does have that in it, but it tends to be more interviews with people of interest. We've interviewed a lot of different people, although the last year we haven't done anything because we've been in lockdown and it's pretty hard to sort of get out there to locations.
Yeah, that was a killer for everybody.
Yeah, it was a killer. It's been a killer. So we'll start that up again next year in 2022. But we've interviewed everyone from hypnotherapists to people that felt they've been abducted by aliens to even a Satanist, right? Someone who, just to see different points of view, all have some sort of aspect of paranormal or unusual or strange. And, we try to make it a little bit different than your normal, running around in the dark with a, night vision camera. So, yeah, that's really what it is. Some are longer, some are shorter. Some are us just telling experiences we've had. So there's a whole lot of different things on there.
I'll be right back with the rest of my conversation with William Tabone right after this brief message.
Ghost stories are always scarier when they're told by the very people who experience them. Hi, I'm Becky.
And I'm Diana.
And we're the hosts of the Homespun Haints podcast.
We talk to people just like you who've come face to face with ghosts, demons, haints, and other strange paranormal phenomena. All of it makes for a chilling good time.
So grab yourself a sweet tea, turn off the lights, and listen to some eerie, true ghost stories on Homespun Haints, wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm not scared. Are you?
Okay, before we get off here, I do want to talk about your book. When did the book come out? The Ghost of Aradale Asylum. You said that's a couple hours away.
Yeah, what it is, it was the biggest asylum in the Southern Hemisphere at its time. Currently has 63 buildings, massive location, a rabbit warren. And there was approximately 13,000 deaths there from all different causes, including murder. It's a great location. I mean, there's you can imagine the activity. Well, you've probably been to asylums, and there's a lot of activity. There's a lot of hardship being in there, a lot of pain, a lot of anguish. There's been good and bad things in both in there. And we were fortunate enough that I spent a lot of time in there. We used to be able to spend weekends. We'd go in on a Friday, sleep in there Friday night, Saturday night, out Sunday. So we did that quite often. But I also have run a tour there once a month when there wasn't COVID. So even public having experiences. So there's so much activity. It blows your socks off. And that's where basically what I do is when I have an experience or someone has an experience, I make a note and just keep it in a file. And it got to a point where I thought, you know what, I want to make a book on this, just the experiences that I've had, that some other people have had, and put it out there for people. It also makes it's also good exposure for the asylum itself because they run tours there, and it's a great site. It really is. Yeah.
And how many times have you been there? I mean, just once or?
Oh no. I've probably spent 6 or 7, 8 weekends locked in there.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And I was there once a month for the last couple of years. Yeah, up until this year just passed. So at least then I'd also shoot up now and then because the gentleman that runs the tours, Eerie Nate, he runs Eerie Tours, Aradale Asylum Tours. Make a tag on there. If you're ever in Australia,
Australia is on my bucket list. So
you've got to get here, man. You got to get here. We'll look after you. No worries.
Oh, yeah. My bucket list is growing since I've done this podcast.
I know it's insane, but I'll get up there, get called up. Can you come and help us out? I need someone to take one of the tours. Yeah, no worries. And if I can get there, I will. Or otherwise, I'll organise, one of my team or someone to get up there. So I spent a lot of time in there. A lot of time. Yeah.
So your book, basically the whole book is on this, your investigations at that asylum
over the period of time, and that's not all of them. That's probably the most. I'll be having more experiences, I hope, in the future. So I've got some still there that I haven't used. Add on to them, and maybe there'll be a volume 2. I'm not sure, but the experiences in there, some are good, some are funny. Some are quite scary. There's been some really interesting experiences there. One experience was, for example, there's a forensics unit where they used to study the criminally insane. Mm-hmm. And we went in there on a public tour. I took people in there, and it's an old building. It's very stuffy. So after I finish our session, I open the front door. So anyone that wants to go out, they can go out, or the others can spend a few minutes taking some photos. I had a lady next to me. She wanted to get out and get some air. I opened this door, and there's a man standing in front of me. He's about 5'3", 5'4", not a very big man, dark hair, with the old woolen outfit they used to wear. Looked at us and looked shocked. I looked at him. I thought, this is all in a split second, right? Mm-hmm. And then he just off to my left, and was gone, like disappeared. I looked at the lady. I was going to ask her, "Did you see that?" And she's standing there in a mouse sofa.
Yeah.
Things like that. It was nothing scary, but it was just like, and the look on this spirit's face was like, "Oh shit."
Right.
They've seen me, basically. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Things like that. It's which is really great. But there are some scary experiences as well in there that we've had.
I do have your book on order, so hopefully I can read that before this podcast is aired in January, since we are taping this in December. Having people like you and meeting people like you, that's my pleasure. Because nobody, in my opinion, nobody's an expert on.
100% agree.
You cannot be at a paranormal. You cannot be an expert on something that you can't
put your finger on. Yeah, exactly.
It's hard for me when I do like my talk like at different places, and
yes.
And naturally everybody wants the proof, and you got the proof, and they don't believe the proof. And even in my documentary, when I did the documentary, it's hard to prove something that's
What's the old saying? For a believer, no proof is necessary. For a disbeliever, no proof is enough. But I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you. I don't agree. There's experts in the paranormal. There's experts in areas like photography, audiology, that sort of thing. Those sort of things.
You go outside and you look at the stars at night.
Yeah,
that star you're looking at is 27 years ago or 50 years ago.
Yes.
Because that's how long it takes that light to hit your eye.
Yeah.
So maybe that thing may already be dead, but we're watching it.
We're still seeing it, exactly.
Because I always said to one guest, how will you handle if you find out there's life outside of us?
Yeah,
will you be able to handle that?
We're silly to think we're the only life out there.
You got that one little planet Earth, fast solar system.
I know. And we're the only ones.
I love this one statement you made. I believe you should never stop learning. My belief is still waters become stagnant.
Yeah.
I mean, ain't that the truth, man?
It is true, man. It is true.
I mean, you cannot stop learning. And I learn off of you. And I learn off all my other guests.
We learn off each other.
And I want to thank you for being on the show tonight. I wish you the best of luck on your book and
thanks, Al.
On your paranormal investigations. And
thank you very much, mate.
Your YouTube channel and your Facebook channel. So right now, I'll give a shout out to where they can contact you and pick up your book.
For sure. Look, anyone interested can find us on Facebook, Australian Paranormal Society. They can go on there and find the book. The book's also on Amazon. And, there are other books. I mean, Amanda's an author. She's written a few books as well, From a Mind of a Medium, Ghosts, Personal Experiences from a Haunted Life, that sort of thing. I think that's what it's called. My memory is not working too well. But look, jump on our Facebook page, send us a message, say good day. More than welcome to just drop by and say hi and ask questions. And, Al, thank you so much for having me on, mate. And congratulations on your 4th season, bro.
Thank you, man. And I will put all your links on the bottom of this episode. So please check out these links. Check out his book, William Tabone. Awesome, man. I thank you for being my first guest of 2022, my 4th season. Awesome. I'm excited. I'm going into the season and starting out with you. And
fantastic, mate.
Man, and thank you to your wife Amanda for hooking me up to you, because I actually was I was doing I always do like internet searches and group searches and
yes.
And everywhere I can find somebody paranormal, either an investigator or an author or hypnosis, whatever, UFO, Bigfoot, cryptids, whatever. And
that's great.
And I came across your wife, and unfortunately she couldn't do it, but she linked me to you, and I'm glad that you agreed to do this, and thank you, man. Thank you.
Amanda's great. She speaks very highly of you, my friend. But she is really, anyone interested, send her a message, man, because she's a wealth of knowledge as well. But Al, she does speak highly of you. That's why I'm talking to you. So we're awesome. Thank you very much for having me, my friend.
I want to thank William Tabone for being my guest tonight, for kicking off my 4th season. And please go to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, any place where you get your books, and pick up Ghosts of Aradale Asylum. William has already agreed to come back on the show, which I'm very excited about, and possibly with his wife Amanda. That would even be an added bonus. Amanda is also a great author. Both Amanda's and William Tabone's books will be at the bottom of this. Again, thank you, William, for your time halfway across the world with this fantastic interview. A quick shout out this Saturday, January 29th, in Marietta, Ohio. there will be a hidden Marietta Paranormal Exposition. They will be offering ghost tours, speakers, vendors. You can get your tickets online from 12 noon till 4 p.m. at the Hidden Marietta Paranormal Expo this Saturday in Marietta, Ohio. I'm your host, Al Cooley. I will see you in 2 weeks on Ghosts in the Valley podcast.